Welcome to the Academic Woman Amplified podcast. I'm your host, Kathy Mazak, tenured full professor, mom of three, and firm believer that the culture of academia needs to change radically. Women are revolutionizing academia within institutions that were not built for us. If you're ready to reject the culture of overwork, kick guilt and overwhelm to the curb, and amplify your voice to make a real impact on your field without breaking down or burning out, you're in the right place. And it all starts with writing. Let's go. Hello and welcome to the podcast. Today I have a little gem for you, which is my interview with Dr. Anatu Mahama. Anatu is the editor-in-chief of a pretty new magazine. It's just about a year old, called The Academic Woman. Anatu grew up an ambitious little girl who loved to read in Ghana. She traveled through her educational experiences and finally got a PhD in publishing law from Loughborough University in the UK. After that experience of grad school, she was inspired to create the Academic Woman magazine. She's going to tell you all about it. I can't wait for you to hear this really inspiring story of somebody who really wants to create a community around her magazine that is for us, right? That is inspiring, where we can read stories about each other and the amazing work that we're doing. So I really encourage you to find the link in the show notes to check out the Academic Woman magazine and enjoy this interview with its founder and editor-in-chief, Dr. Anatu Mahama. I'm so excited to have you on the podcast today. You all are going to just love this interview. I can't wait to get started. Let me start by asking you to introduce yourself to our audience.
Hello, Kathy. Thank you so much for having me. I'm also excited to be on your podcast. It's really great to be on the show. Yes, my name is Anatu Mahama, the founder and editor of the Academic Woman magazine. The Academic Woman magazine is basically a quarterly magazine that shines a spotlight on all women in academia. But I suppose you'll be asking more.
Yes, I'm going to dig into your background and we're going to find out how you got to this point. Everyone, I'm sure, is going to be really excited to hear all about the magazine and kind of what brought you to this point. So let's start a little bit with really the beginning. A lot of times I like to talk to academic women about, you know, the different paths that brought them into academia. But let's start like right at the beginning. Like, what were you like as a little girl?
Oh, that's an interesting question.
Right?
Yes, when I was little, I think like every girl or every child, I had so many dreams. Mm-hmm. At some point, people ask, what would you like to be? And I'll go, I want to be a doctor. Another time, I want to be a nurse. Another time, all sorts of, professions and vocations. What I didn't know was that I was quite chatty and I loved reading, mm-hmm. which is not the same as who I am now at the moment because I'm less chatty now. But one thing that stood out was that I was really ambitious and determined. Right from primary school, I've always been determined, took my studies seriously because I had this ambition to be someone great, even though I didn't know which path I was going to. So yes, I think the ambition is what drove me to this level. Mm-hmm. And my friends who had known me right from every stage of my education, if they hear me make a progress, they're not surprised because they've always known that, I've stood out in terms of ambition and who I want to be. Mm-hmm. So yes, as a little girl, I've always been ambitious. I've always wanted to know more. I've always wanted to see myself excel in whatever I do.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I think that word ambition is one that we need to claim, right? Just grab onto that word, because I think in the past, it's been a negative word for women, and obviously it's not. We need to leave that behind.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes, it is. And we want to see more ambitious women out there.
Definitely. So you are ambitious and you like to read and you were chatty when you were small, but maybe not so now. So how did you decide what you wanted to go to university and study?
Okay. So where I studied in Ghana, a country in West Africa, and the educational system was such that you either choose between doing science and what we call the general arts, which is the humanities. And a part of it, you can also choose to do business, which is the accounting and economics and those subjects. So usually when you're smart, everybody thinks, or pushes you towards the sciences. I was pushed towards the sciences, but I did love reading. I love literature. And I was also good with the other subjects. But usually when you're smart, they push you towards the sciences. So I went on to do O-level maths, what we call GCSEs in England here. After my GCSEs, instead of going to do my A-levels, I went on to do postgraduate teacher training course to teach at a basic level of education. So yes, when I was doing that, I said to myself that no, I was just going to do this for 2 years because I want to go back to the university. So I studied for A-levels, but I chose art subjects to study for A-levels because I was studying by myself to do the A-levels. I didn't go back to school to do the A-levels. So I chose subjects that I can conveniently combine with my teaching profession. So I chose the arts. So once at that stage, I felt, okay, I'm definitely leaning towards humanities now. So yes, I wrote my A-levels, went to the university to read a degree in publishing studies. I had other options, but I chose publishing because of the location. And it sounded interesting to me. At that time. It's still interesting because I'm back into that profession. So yes, I went to do publishing without knowing I would one day have my own business in publishing, launch a magazine and that sort of thing. So yes, after publishing, I went on to do my master's degree. And again, I think my curiosity got the better of me in choosing the subject at that level because I saw information and knowledge management and I thought, oh, what's this about? And I thought, okay, publishing, knowledge management, they kind of sound related. And part of the program also involved electronic publishing. So I went on to do that program, after which I went on to work with a non-governmental organization in managing their knowledge products as a knowledge management officer. So yes, at that level, I don't know if I need to carry on and on and on, Kathy. Is that...
So that's really interesting. So you went to grad school, you combined this publishing with the knowledge management, and then you went and worked with an NGO. Tell us a little about that work. Like what is knowledge management? Like that, I haven't heard that term before. So tell us a little about what kind of things you did.
Knowledge management, I think I'll just summarize what I did rather than talking broadly about knowledge management because it's a whole big area and it depends on interpretations as well, even up to date. But basically what I did was to ensure that whatever knowledge and information they are producing within the organization, I was able to manage that on their intranet for them. I was able to make sure that the information is circulated to the right people. I also produced their newsletter at that time. And these are people who were working for the water and sanitation sector. So there was need for preservation of whatever knowledge outcome comes out of every project so that it can be reflected upon and used for the next stage of another project. During the process of this, when I was working, I got pregnant with my first child, which happens with most women when we work. So after that, by the nature of the job, I couldn't carry on. So I was looking for something more flexible that would help with childcare. And that was when I applied for a lecturing job. So I started lecturing in 2007. I lectured in courses like business of publishing. I also taught publishing law and policy, which was an area I enjoyed so much and something I did during my master's degree. During that stage, I thought, okay, there was a program that was organized by the World Intellectual Property Organization. And I felt, okay, if I have been teaching publishing law and policy, I want to claim some sort of authority in it. So yes, it was another master's, but I needed that, knowledge because that's what master's programs do. They give you that expertise, that authority, because the PhD is more towards the research area for you to apply to your work. So basically I went ahead to do that master's program to claim authority in that area, which was really interesting. I think a year later was when I went on to do my PhD. So it's been one stage after the other. So it's basically, like I said, ambition and the want and the need, the desire to make myself better at every stage. I was never not content. Yes, I get content with my life and what I do, but there's always that need for progression. You see it. I think every ambitious person can relate to this.
Absolutely. So what made you decide to start your own magazine, right? So the Academic Woman magazine is a business, right? So you're an entrepreneur, right? But also this is like right in line with your educational background.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about like what sparked the idea to start the magazine.
In 2012, October 2012, I started my journey to do a PhD.
Mm-hmm.
So I was initially in Ghana where I was lecturing.
Mm-hmm.
I came to England to do a PhD with two small children, 4 and 5 years old.
Mm.
And yes, it's been a remarkable journey. I won't give it up for anything. But obviously, doing a PhD with two children, watching colleagues with children, all managing it through. Some people were fortunate to have their husbands around. Some of us were not fortunate to have our husbands around.
Mm-hmm.
And I just look at everything we do as women. I look at my supervisors. One of them, she has two boys, and one was going to uni, and then the other one was growing up as well. And I thought, okay. And at some point, I actually met her at the medical center when I took my child to see a GP. So I thought, okay, we juggle with all this. And I just thought of the many hats we wear as women. We mothers, we chauffeurs, we everything, we chefs.
Mm-hmm.
You can name it all. But then there's little recognition for what we do, especially women who work in higher education or universities, because we are right in the middle of producing knowledge. We produce knowledge, we contribute to knowledge. A recent example, I've got two incredible women here. Sarah Gilbert, Professor Sarah Gilbert from Oxford University, who's at the forefront of the AstraZeneca vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've also got Professor Sharon Peacock from Cambridge University, who helped to design how the UK should tackle the COVID-19 situation. So we've got all these women at the forefront who are doing great jobs, but nobody hears of them.
Yeah.
And that was even prior to this, because I knew that women were helping to contribute to knowledge, but nobody hears of us. So I thought, why don't you establish a platform, launch a platform that would help to champion recognition? So basically celebrating women as academics, our contribution to knowledge, the challenges we go through, the institutional structures, the issues that needs to be talked about. So when people share their experiences and stories, we get to know the issues that go on in our educational systems and how some of these issues can be handled, or how on the individual level, people have handled these challenges or problems to get to the top of their professions. So I feel that if we tell our stories, then we are able to inspire one another, because someone else will be able to relate to, or particularly junior academics and early career researchers. We are able to see that, okay, this person has been able to do this. This person has been able to navigate through the system. What did the person do? I can do it as well. That sort of, inspiration, and how we can even connect with one another through the stories we tell. That has been the basis for me, the Academic Woman, for launching the Academic Woman. At the moment, we are working on our 4th issue, which is in production. So, yeah, I'm excited about it. I'm so grateful for all the women who have told their stories, incredible journeys. And I just love telling the stories through the magazine.
Yeah. And it's a beautiful, I love the look of the magazine. I mean, I've only seen it in PDF form, in electronic form. But I love, seeing the faces of some of the authors in there and reading their stories. So I wonder why you decided to choose the magazine format. Many people would go for kind of a path of least resistance publication method, right? Like a blog or something. So why the magazine that is beautifully laid out and all of that?
The whole point of the magazine is in line with the aim of the Academic Woman, because if you go into the shops now or go into a supermarket or any bookshelf, you see all these magazines and all these women display on top of them. And the whole point was to celebrate academic women, display their images, let people see them, let people hear what they do. So it's all part of the celebration thing. But the other issue why I went for the magazine was that I know academics, we more focus on writing for promotion. So it's all about journals and everything. And in terms of, even though blogs may not have the editorial content that magazines go through, the editorial process that magazines go through. But magazines are also less formal than journal articles that people read. So the whole idea is that, if someone wants the print, you can sit back over a week at a weekend or in the evening and flip through and read stories from like-minded people. Stories that you can connect with, but not serious to take your mind into your work so much.
Right.
So the whole point was to create this informal, chatty platform where people can share their experiences and something tangible that people can feel as well.
Yeah, wonderful. Who do you think is your ideal reader for the magazine? Like, who are you really trying to reach? When you picture that person flipping through the magazine in the evening, who is she?
I'm picturing the postgraduate student who is torn between doing a PhD or a PhD student who is not very certain about her career path or where exactly she wants to go, or has some nagging questions she's not clear of.
Yeah.
And I'm also picturing the senior lecturer or professor, or even the vice chancellor. And yes, we are fortunate to feature the first vice chancellor in our current issue. Yes,
oh, great.
Issue 4, we have a vice chancellor. Yes, and a female vice chancellor in our issue. So basically, seeing everyone at the higher education level, whether in the professional services side of academia or you're into teaching and research, just being able to sit back, hold something that is something that you can read and relate to, but, kind of relax, or even with your bottle of wine as you watch TV, flip through some pages.
Yeah.
So that is the ideal reader.
Right. So who is writing for your magazine? How do you find people to write for your magazine? And if somebody who's listening wants to write, what should they do?
Oh, that's a difficult question, but not so difficult. The difficulty comes with, getting contributors.
Yeah.
Because it's all new. I think this June is actually a year when I officially started a business.
Yeah.
So from June, I started working on the first issue to get it launched in October. So the first issue was launched in October last year. So the first issue, for instance, basically what I did was to get in touch and connect with my own network of friends, get people on board. I was very fortunate that, I sent emails to people and this is a brilliant idea. I'm happy to contribute. And I was fortunate to get those contributions for the first issue. The second issue went along the same way. But by the time we got to the third issue, we realized that getting people to write is a challenge because academics are busy. So what we tend to do, we've created a list of questions where we can send to academics. And then so we approach an academic, say, okay, this is your research area, this is your interest. We would like to feature in the magazine, but with focus on the health bits because you're into health research or that sort of thing. So that's what we do. Sometimes, yes, people will say yes. You send a list of questions and then you don't get the feedback. Obviously, it's understandable because everyone is busy. But most of the time, anybody who says yes tends to respond to the questions we send across. So we send questions across, and in a few cases, I get people write and then send their pieces across. So, for instance, for the third issue, for instance, I had 3 manuscripts that were not solicited for, which was great, just getting the manuscripts or the articles coming in for you to work on. So that was great. In terms of editorial support, for the first issue, quite interestingly, because of the lockdown, I did practically everything on my own till the end. I remember a friend who used to work in the magazine business for a magazine company. So I got in touch with her and said, look, this is what I've started. I remember mentioning to you a year ago that I was going to do this and I was going to count on you. Can you help with editing, proofreading before it goes into production? She jumped on board and she was very helpful. She helped through to the third issue, but due to work commitments that she saw, but she recommended someone else who I've been working with. He's great as well. And unfortunately, he's got someone who works in academia. His partner works in academia, so he seems to understand what I'm doing. It's great. He's been very supportive. So I get writers from across, mainly rely on freelancers. And then editorial, yes, I do a chunk of it, but I also get help from people that I've took on board on the team. And quite recently, I've got someone else who's also volunteered to help with webinars that we organize. Basically, it's just to create that sense of community. So we do organize this monthly webinars. And of course, tomorrow we're having you. So we do organize this monthly webinars, and yes, it's going to be, so someone else is helping at the moment. And thankfully, I've also started creating an editorial team. And I'm fortunate to have some very key people who have joined the editorial team. So we have an editorial advisory teams as we go on. We'll have phone calls. So even meet when things get back to normal, and then see how we can move the magazine forward. And all these people are volunteering to help the business to pick up, which is great. So far, that is where we are. But yeah,
amazing.
Going on and on.
Yeah. I mean, look at how much you've done in a year, right? I mean, it's really kind of just amazing that you've been able to take such like kind of huge action and get this magazine off the ground during a pandemic, and really bring that voice out into the world.
Yeah, I think basically I don't believe in spending too much time in planning. I believe in getting on with it.
Yeah.
I know sometimes things might not go right, but once you have a fair idea of what is it that you want to do, it's better to get on with it than carry on planning for ages. And now once you're into it, it's even better because it gets you thinking more, and you're able to strategize more. You're able to see the loopholes. You're able to see things that you didn't even think of, or you would have thought of if you had spent so much time planning your business. Of course, it's a business. You still plan. You have your business plan, but not so much time thinking of what if. It's better to get on with it. And as you get on with it, issues that come up, you deal with them as you go on. Obviously, there will be challenges. And sometimes, when things are stuck, I remember for the second issue, for instance, I've had people saying, okay, we'll submit manuscripts, but I looked at the production deadline, we're running behind schedule. And you just have to think. And in the process, we got content. Because you just have to think out of the box. How am I supposed to get this content? I'm running behind time. What do I do? And then that drives you to search. And as you search, you find solutions to whatever problems you have ahead of you, and you're able to solve them. So for me, I like the whole idea of getting on with it.
Yeah, me too. I'm that kind of person too. I'm like, let's try this. Let's try that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's fun. Yeah. It's fun. Mm-hmm. Okay. So if you were going to kind of cast a vision for the future of the Academic Women magazine, what does that future look like? What do you want to build kind of more long-term with the magazine?
Right. At the moment, first, I would like to build a big subscription base. Yes, the big subscription base, because once I have a big subscription base, and I'm able to attract some kind of advertisers or sponsorships to get the magazine into production every quarter, that would be great. And at the moment, it's quarterly, but I can foresee us making it a monthly thing as we go on, because sometimes, for instance, with the fourth issue, I had two members of the university's management team, and I didn't feel right that both should be in one issue. So if I have to save that content, it means that towards the end of production for the next issue, I'd have to get back to the person and ask, okay, now your content is going into production. Are there any updates to check and all that? Whereas if it's monthly, just keep it rolling. Once the subscription base increases, obviously we'll look at having something monthly. And of course, when all this pandemic settles, it would be nice to have more of live conferences where you see more academics interact, and then, talk about issues, share stories, talk generally about what is happening in academia. And sometimes, for instance, if, we can have you, Kathy, and then, talk to people. People want to know more about how to stay on track with their writing and that sort of thing. So yes, have a few aspects, but less formal than what an academic conference would usually be, so that sort of thing. So yeah, for the future, what I foresee is this big community, a global community of like-minded women who see themselves celebrated every month in a magazine. So even if it would mean seeing more pages, printing more pages of the magazine and all that, increasing number of pages, which is absolutely fine. And then building a stronger editorial team. So yes, you did ask about if people want to submit content or want to contribute. Yes. If anyone is interested in submitting content, just go onto our website, theacademicwoman.co.uk. You would see the submission guidelines. But aside from the submission guidelines, if you just email hello@academicwoman.co.uk, we'll respond to you and then we'll take it up from there. So yes, even if you don't want to write and you want to be featured, we are happy to send you a couple of questions. They could just be as simple as 5 questions, and then we'll do the write-up ourselves.
Beautiful. That's fantastic. So that, I imagine that same website is also where to go if people want to subscribe.
Absolutely, yes. We have basically it's a quarterly magazine. So at the moment we have 3 back issues. So if you subscribe now, you have free 3 back issues. So for membership, you get the 3 back issues. Even if you buy an individual copy, unless it's digital, but if you go for the print copy, I tend to post some back issues in addition to that. Mm-hmm. And we also have the Academic Woman pin, which is the logo. Mm-hmm. So basically, the logo represents us, an academic woman. It's got the book, it's got a female figure, which represents a tree growth, and it's got a column academia. And then it's just about us and our journey to the top. So if people would want to check out that enamel pin, is great to put on your jacket or on your blouse as you move about. So yes, we have the pin as well.
Wonderful. Well, we will be hooking all of that up, linking all of that up in our show notes. And Anatu, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Kathy. That's great. Thank you.
I'm so honored that you spent your valuable time listening to this episode. Thank you. Before I go, I want to ask you, do you have an almost done article languishing in a virtual drawer? How about a new writing project that you just haven't been able to make the time to start yet? How about a piece of writing in the messy middle that you need to revive? Well, I've got the solution for you. Writing Sprint Blueprint. The Writing Sprint Blueprint is a powerful productivity tool for overwhelmed academics who want to get stalled out publications out of their pipelines and into the world. And it's only $27. And when you grab Writing Sprint Blueprint, you'll get my private motivational podcast feed called Stick to the Plan. It's 10 mini episodes of around a minute each that you can listen to right from your favorite podcast app to motivate you during your writing sprint. So what are you waiting for? Follow the link in the show notes to get Writing Sprint Blueprint today. I'll see you inside.